Hello, and welcome to the Divine Feminine Leaders podcast. My name is Celeste Hartwell, and the Divine Feminine Leaders podcast is a feminine view of entrepreneurship for women by women. And this week, I feel really inspired to share something that I've been sharing with my clients lately, and it is about the ritual that I do specifically before I do anything. So, like, say, for this podcast and for my client calls and for my group client calls, and before I do basically any work, this is just a small ritual that I do, and then we'll see where the conversation goes because I'm feeling really in flow this week and every time I've tried to come up with what should I talk about this week, there's a lot that can be said about many things. And so I'm really open to what comes up, and I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. You can always send me an email at celeste@divinefeminine.leaders.com. You can go to divinefeminine.leaders.com if that's easier for you. There's a contact page, and send me a note through that, or find me on Facebook and all of that. So anyway, without further ado, I will explain what I do and kind of talk you through it. So if you're new to any type of ritual, it's okay. Like, honestly, your morning coffee is a ritual. A marriage ceremony is a ritual. We have rituals in lots of different ways, in small ways in our life. And I think back to the episode with Ina Lucas, and I'm blanking on the number right now, which episode that was. But she talked about how ritual really creates the container for the divine to flow through. And it was fascinating to hear her say that, because it was only recently in my own journey that I really started to incorporate this type of ritual in. And so I do want to get started. Let me find my video is a little bit wonky if you're watching, but getting refocused. So here I have wood. It's Palo Santo. And so if you've never heard of smudging or any of that, like, typically people burn sage, and it's like dried sage leaves, and they're in a bundle, and they burn them, and then use the smoke to clear. So you'll see me doing that if you're watching the video. If you're not watching the video, you're going to hear what I say when I do this. But for me, I like Palo Santo. It's really easy to get. I'm going to be honest, I think I bought it on Amazon. So it's super simple. You can get it anywhere, any mystical shop, magic shop, those types of spiritual places. But yeah, it's wood. Basically it's wood, and it smells really great. So I have a lighter. I have a heavy duty lighter. Sorry, that was loud in the microphone. I had it a little bit close. So I'm lighting the Palo Santo. Guess I should put it on screen if you're watching the video. And I light it for a while to kind of let it get a good flame. It takes quite a bit. Oops, I blew it out. It takes quite a bit to set off the smoke alarm. But if it does, it's okay. It won't last for too long. So yeah, I kind of let it burn a little bit so that I get a lot of smoke. And okay. So we'll let that. Okay. So then I wave it, right? So typically when I do this, I walk around my entire office. I walk around or whatever space it is that I'm clearing, right? So right now, I'm not going to go off camera. I'm not going to go away from the microphone, but I'm going to set the intention that this is for the entire space, right? And then I stand typically as well, because one of the pillars of my work with people is that your physiology affects your psychology and vice versa. It's kind of like that infinity symbol. So your posture is really important. So standing up straight, standing, and kind of having a firm stance on the ground. So sometimes I walk around, sometimes I just really root my feet into the ground. But what I do when I do this is I speak, because one of the ways that we create, which we've talked about on the show, is through speaking. And so I will just start doing that now, what I'm going to say. I cleanse this space. I cleanse this space of any negative energy, of any negative thought forms, of anything that is not serving myself, the collective, the listeners of this podcast, and everyone who touches the people who listen to this podcast and myself, to the ripple effect for the entire collective. I cleanse this space. I invite in Christ, only beings and guides of 100% pure Christ consciousness energy, frequency, and higher to come in to help us to serve the people who are listening to this podcast, to serve myself, and to everyone that we touch, to the ripple effect for all of consciousness for the entire collective. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It is done. Simple, right? And then, so that's part of what I do. And normally I'm walking around and I'm talking and I'm saying what I feel guided to say. So often I actually am also invoking wealth and health and happiness and unconditional love and unconditional joy for yourself, for myself, for everyone that we touch, again, and the ripple effect throughout the entire collective, right? We're really here to help people feel better and have more fun and healing and all of that, right? Like everything that you desire, that your people desire, that anybody who's touching you desires, that we are holding that space. I'm creating that space in this podcast for that. So I just wanted to share that. I'm going to put it back. I have a little place back here. I guess I'll show the video a little bit. So yeah, there's where it is. With my selenite lamp, and selenite is really great. Actually, on my other side, I have a salt lamp. You can't quite see it on the video. It's a little bit off screen. It's like that little right there. And I like those because they're very potent. They're very powerful. They cleanse the air. They cleanse the energy. They really help me anchor in the space. So the other part of what I do here, basil oil is an amazing smelling oil. I mean, you should just have it because it's amazing, but it smells really delicious. And I get a tea light candle. So tea lights are simple. You can get them at the Dollar Tree or the dollar store. You can get a whole bunch for pennies, basically, per tea light. Like a couple dollars. It's not much. And I take the basil oil and I take a couple drops and I anoint this candle. So I anoint this candle for wealth, health, prosperity, for abundance, for cash, for myself, for everyone who listens to this podcast, for myself as well, for everyone we touch, through the ripple effect, for all of the collective consciousness. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It's done. That was it. I just put it on that. And now you're going to watch it. It's going to flame really big because the oil is flammable. But I'm going to burn this. I'm just going to light the little wick. It's going to start off normal and then it's going to go a little crazy. And then I put it back here. So I put it basically on that little stand that I have back there. You can hardly see it, but you might see some smoke if you're watching the video. But yeah, the basil oil is going to like burn pretty big. Yeah, if you're watching the video, you can see black smoke. But it does not set off the smoke alarm because it's such a little candle. The basil oil burns off pretty quickly. I say that now my smoke alarm will go off, but probably not. But so that is a really small ritual that I do, but it's not about ritual. I do this and now you should do this. That's not the point. Yeah. Oh. So funny story. I just said it was going to set off the smoke alarm and it did, and it never has done that before. So words are powerful. When you hold this type of container, what you say manifests. So be careful with your words. So anyway, what I was saying was, I'm not sharing this with you because I feel like this is what you should do when you're getting ready for a client call, or you're getting ready to go on video, or you're getting ready to do anything in life. But I find it really powerful to set an energetic space of unconditional love, of abundance, of health, of wealth, of prosperity. And we do this in lots of different ways. And so this actually leads into one of the things I really did want to talk about today, which was the difference between, I believe in mindset work almost above everything else. Like, I believe that our beliefs really create our reality, and energy work is important, and dealing with emotions is important, and all of that is so intertwined. And so I say all of that because for me, speaking these things out loud, having this super small ritual has helped me cultivate more of an abundance mindset. And when I say abundance mindset versus a lack or scarcity mindset, there is no right or wrong, right? Like, we're all on our journey. We're all at whatever stage we're at, learning as we go. So there's not like levels of betterness. And I so I want to be very clear about that. But for me, I feel better when I'm feeling abundant, when I know that the universe is prospering me in every single way, in all these different ways. And when I know that I have an abundance of love and peace and happiness, this goes to this point that so many of us, and we're brought up this way in society and families and religion, um, to always be waiting for, when I get to this stage, this age, this job, this, salary level, executive level, etc., then I will be dot dot dot. And typically, like, happiness is like on that list, right? Like, when I graduate high school, I will be on my own. I will be happy. When I do this, I will be happy. And we're constantly in this state of chasing and not living from an abundant space, right? Because when we're always seeking something that's always a little bit out of reach, and then we get there and realize, like, oh, that actually didn't change anything, then we're in this space of lack. And so again, there's no judgment. We all go through different stages of this, and it's a journey. It's not like one day I got the abundance mindset and then it was done, right? Like, no, it is a practice, and it's a practice of focus, and it's a practice of gratitude, and it's a practice of being very specific and focused and um consistent, of like, what feels abundant to me, and how do I want to feel, and how do I want to show up in the world, right? So this is one small way that I feel abundant. I feel abundant because I'm speaking it, because I'm creating it, because I'm lighting a candle and I'm holding the energetic space. And that feels incredible to me. It feels really, really powerful. And it is really powerful. Like, my clients feel it, and I hope that you feel it. I'd be curious to hear if you do or you don't, and either way is fine. But I would be curious to have a conversation and hear whether you feel uplifted when you listen to this podcast, because that is always my intention. My intention is to help bring more joy, to help bring more understanding, to help bring more compassion into the world is a big thing. That's one of my core values. And that's really important to me. And so again, and we always get to refine, like, what do we really want to feel? So I just wanted to come on this particular week and really invite you into inviting in what small rituals feel really good to you. And maybe, like, I have a client right now, and who I shared this with recently, and she said, oh, I have somebody telling me that I really want to be like a bigger speaker, so I should be calling 2 people every single day, not just Monday through Friday, but every single day for so many days. 2 people, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, make the phone calls, and to like look at speaking gigs, right? To like see what can come about. And the reason for that is because you're building momentum, you're building a muscle, and it's becoming a habit. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, really powerful people, like people who are very successful in the normal term. I'm always with myself and my clients going, okay, but how are we defining success, right? Like, how are we defining success? And be aware of that. And for myself, I had to redefine success to mean happiness, and not to mean salary, and not to mean prestige, not to mean something, some type of notoriety or whatever. I had to be like, no, am I happy? And I was just talking earlier about how we're always looking, like we're constantly on this wheel of when then I'll be happy. We get to choose to be happy now. We get to choose to be happy now. And again, it's a journey, and it's this constant ever state, ever flowing state. But what I really feel called to share with you is that no matter where you are in your journey, you are perfect exactly the way you are. There is nothing wrong with you. You've done the best that you can with the information that you've had your entire life. And you can't take any of the things that you've done back. You can't redo them. And so what helps tremendously is to be able to reframe. Like, I had a particular person actually threaten my life. And while many people go into this space of, oh, that's horrible, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't pleasant at the time, and it was startling, to be fair. I was startled for a few days, and shocked, and really had to tune in to my own intuition and say, what's the best way for me to move forward in this moment? And I took the course of action that I felt in alignment with, and that worked well for me, to kind of wait it out for a couple days and then cut contact when that person was a little bit physically distant away from me, like out of my house and at a different location. That felt safe to me. That felt nourishing to me. That was the best way that I could handle it at the time. But I am so grateful that person said what they did. And not that that was a pleasant experience, but because what they didn't know at the time was how suicidal I was. And by that person vocalizing that threat, it was like a smack across my face, and it woke me up in a way that said, and my soul was like, I'm not done, and I'm here, and I'm staying in this body. And it was a whiplash moment for me in a big way. That was the most beneficial thing that person could have ever given me. He gave me a gift. Like, he gave me the gift of life, to be honest. And so I'm saying that because we can't always get to that space of pure gratitude. And that's okay. But if you can, it's really powerful to reframe. And maybe you need help with that. And so I'm a person that helps people do that. There are also lots of different people. We've had lots of healers on this podcast, and we'll have many, many more. So I always encourage you to reach out to the person that you feel most aligned with, that you feel like, oh my God, they're speaking to me. That's totally me. Because that's for you. And so I invite you to know that your happiness is available now, that you are amazing, and that if no one else is, I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you being on this planet, for doing whatever you're doing, because I know that you're serving the collective in the highest and best way. No matter what small way you may feel that is, it is still serving in a very potent, powerful way that you may not see right now. And that's okay. So my name is Celeste Hartwell. I really appreciate you being on here. If you didn't see on Facebook recently, I shared that I'm going to be creating a new podcast. This one is still going to continue because I love her, and I'm so excited to be showcasing more and more women. I've got more and more ladies coming on the books to be able to showcase them. And however, I felt really called to share the journey that I went on. So if you do not know me, I, in 2018, was called to do 30 days. We called it in silence, like 30 days in silence. But it really ended up being isolation from my entire life, from my normal, from my family, from my beloved, from my business. I locked myself in the house, my own house, and wrote a lot during that time. So every day there was like a log of what I was healing and what I was moving through. And it was a really intense journey, very intense. You're going to hear about it in the new podcast. And then in 2019, I was called into 40 days in silence. And so at that point, I was living with my beloved. So I was led to do a house sitting job in Florida, which was a fascinating journey all on its own, because I was like, Florida, I live in Vermont. But I made the trek. I went down there, I drove, I took all my belongings that I needed. And that was a wild journey as well. So I had learned a lot from 30 days in silence and was able to take that knowledge into 40 days in silence. And again, was led to, it was isolation from everyone that I knew. It was isolation from my business, from my beloved. And what I did was I just really went internal and I healed lots of things. If you follow me on Facebook, you know that my first husband, actually, I just could keep hearing that he lived in Florida and I needed to reach him. And you'll hear all of that rather in the new podcast. So she doesn't quite have a name yet, but she's launching on Monday, March 2nd. And so what this new podcast will be is basically the daily sharing of, for one episode, I will read what I wrote in day one in the 30 days, and I'll go through. And so there will be 30 episodes of what happened, or maybe a little bit more, because there might be some summary and some extra insights. But basically the 30 days in silence will be its own series in this new podcast that's coming. And then the 40 days will then be shared as well in the same format. So one episode is one day, and so on through all 40 days. So it's going to be a really powerful journey. I'm saying this partially because I've actually not even looked over the material from the 40 days yet. And that's going to be fascinating. So there's going to be some real raw reaction on my part, because it was a lot. It was a lot. And while in some ways 40 days, there wasn't so much external things that shifted for me as the 30 days, there was still a lot of stuff there. There was still a lot of stuff, and I learned a lot of lessons. And I'm excited because what I learned in 30 days also was that I didn't write as much as I wanted to. When I came out of it and read the material, I realized I had left a lot out. And I regretted that a little bit because I had been so insecure to even write for myself. And in 40 days, I likely overwrote because I did not want to go through that again. I wanted to know that I was sharing as much as possible. So some days it's particularly long in 40 days. And yeah, so I'm really excited to be sharing that journey with you, coming very, very soon, March 2nd. And it will be available all the places that this is available as well, except I'm not completely knowing whether I'm going to do it on YouTube or not. But it will be on Apple, it will be on Google, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, all of those places, every place else that podcasts are found. And we'll feel into how I feel being that vulnerable, like being allowed to be seen in the emotion that comes up with the reading of all of this material. Because to be fair, 30 days happened in 2018, and I've not revisited that material since then either. So, I mean, I came out of 30 days and then I blogged it for 30 days in August of 2018. And it was like reliving it in that moment. And so I'm also a little bit tentative about this because it's nerve-wracking, because it's vulnerable. And to know how it threw me back into the process in 2018 when I shared it has had me be a little bit hesitant about this particular project. But I am very excited. I know that this is my calling. Everyone's calling is different. My particular calling is to heal myself and to help show people that they can do it and to help them see themselves in my own journey through a lot of transparency. And it is not comfortable. I will say, like, every level is uncomfortable again, right? Like, we get to a level in life and then it's always uncomfortable at the beginning. Think about a new job, right? Like, you could take a new job and there's some excitement, but there's also like, oh, there's a little bit of anxiety and can I really do this? And I'm nervous, and right? Like, there's all of that present in everything new that we try. And so it's like that with this, but this is like so my material. It is my life in a very public way. And so I'm honoring myself for continuing to show up, as uncomfortable as it is, and I'm honoring you for listening and for being a listener and a subscriber and a fan of this particular podcast. And I hope that you'll join me in the new one, in the new share. And I just really am honoring you for showing up for yourself. Thank you so much for showing love on this. And if you really enjoy this podcast, I invite you to subscribe, because that actually helps other people find this podcast. So you can subscribe wherever you find this podcast, whether it's Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and all of that helps us to reach more people, and we really appreciate it. So my name is Celeste Hartwell. This is the Divine Feminine Leaders Podcast. We are a feminine view of entrepreneurship for women, by women, and just get curious about this abundance versus lack mindset. And you can just ask yourself, am I in abundance right now? Huh. And just get curious. There's no judgment. There is no right. There is no wrong. You're doing the best you can in every single moment. We love you so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing new episode. Mwah.